We are counting down to Coinbase as the largest cryptocurrency exchange prepares for its direct listing on the Nasdaq tomorrow. Within the last half hour, Coinbase setting a reference price of $250 a share that values the company at more than $65 billion. Joining us now is Coinbase board member Tom Lavero. He's a partner at late-stage venture capital firm IVP. Welcome, Tom. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Great being here. You
know, there were high expectations when it comes to the valuation of Coinbase, some expectations as high as $150 billion. So what's your take on where it's valued at this point?
Yeah, I can't speculate on where it will come out, but what I'll tell you is we're hearing a lot of interest from both institutions and consumers in the name. And, you know, I think they set the reference price at a point where they think it's fair. But it's really going to depend on that supply and demand, how many consumers, how many institutions show up. I think it's going to be a bit of a Rorschach test, an ink blot test, that is, for what people think of crypto. Those who see it as a potential avenue for expansion like the internet was many years ago versus those who don't quite understand it.
I get that. But at the same time, if you're a true believer in crypto, and let's say you're a true believer in Bitcoin, why is investing in Coinbase better? Because we've seen it time and time again where transaction-based businesses, which Coinbase is right now, 90% of its revenues rely on the retail trader, so they collect fees from the transactions. That gets compressed over time. So are we actually looking at a Coinbase where the best days are right here, right in front of us, with those fees going down? If you're a true believer in Bitcoin, why not choose Bitcoin over Coinbase?
Yeah, I think you can point to many analogs, both in financial services and technology. In financial services, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, started off on transactional models and were able to evolve their businesses over time to revenue streams that were much more dependable and more valued in the long run by consumers. But owning a very highly liquid marketplace is really what you need to do in order to expand over time. I think Amazon is a great example too, right? When they started off, people said, how big can this be? They're a bookseller. But because they were internet native and really understood the medium, they weren't just throwing up a website, unlike, you know, Barnes and Nobles and Borders. They really got the technology. They were able to expand upon that. And I think a lot of investors see that in Coinbase. It's sure, buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a starting place. But in the long run, they can move fastest and offer the best features that are really what we call crypto native.
So, Tom, when you worry about, obviously, when you talk about Bitcoin or the other coins, you worry about regulation. How do you look at regulation from your seat? And what's the discussion there? Is this something that you're prepared for? Are you focused on certain things coming down the pike, or that's not really monopolizing your time at this point?
You know, to be honest, at this point, we don't spend a ton of time thinking, or I should say worrying about regulation. I think it's more about education at this point. There's a lot of lawmakers, I think, who are just beginning to learn about cryptocurrency and the benefits that it can bring to our society and to business as you increase economic freedom. So I think it's more about educating the lawmakers. In terms of the regulatory bodies, for the most part, I think they're very up to speed and they've been very crypto friendly. So, you know, at this point, I think the job for Coinbase and for the whole industry is really more education than it is worrying about sort of negative regulation.
So when you think of competitors, Tom, who do you think of as competitors? We threw up a full screen with a bunch of different sort of exchanges, but maybe exchanges aren't your biggest worry right now.
Yeah, I think, this is an answer that may be a little frustrating, but I think it's mostly themselves. Coinbase needs to execute exceptionally well. There's so many different avenues they can go. It's more about what not to do than what else they can do. There's just so much opportunity in front of them. Honestly, I think it's more about them executing than, you know, defeating a single competitor. If you think about the marketplace today for crypto, very few brokerages have even added the most basic function of being able to say buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. You know, that if they can't do those basic things, you know, when you get to more advanced crypto abilities like staking, et cetera, you know, they're probably years off. So I think as far as the direct competition goes, that's not really what Coinbase keeps Coinbase up at night.
And when you think about Coinbase's future in terms of product mix, is it all going to be coins? Is it going to be Bitcoin in the universe of all coins, or could it be other things like NFTs, for instance?
Yeah, I think the company's mission is around both increasing economic freedom, but also a dedication to crypto. So anything that is related to the blockchain, NFTs certainly are, I think could be fair game for them in the future. The company's product suite today is much more expansive than it was. It's all about utilizing crypto. So if it's a way you can utilize crypto, I think that's well within the company's future mission.
Tom, great to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tom Lavero, a Coinbase board member. Guy Adami, what do you make of this? Because I do think that they're separate things. You can be a believer in Bitcoin, you can be a believer in crypto, and not necessarily be a believer in the exchange.
I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. I think you asked all the right questions. His point about, really the risk is an operational risk and them just doing the right things. I'll tell you, though, the $100 billion that the market's talking about in terms of final valuation after it begins trading, I mean, Goldman Sachs has a $111 billion market cap, just to put things in perspective. So it really comes down to, how ahead of your skis do you want to get in this space? Obviously, they're in the right place at the right time. A lot of people have said that maybe we'll see a short-term top in crypto on the back of this. It's going to be fascinating to watch, but I think you're right. You back out everything and just look at what this business is. Does it deserve this kind of valuation? Well, we're going to find out really soon.
Yeah, and no surprise and no coincidence, Bitcoin hit a new record today. And of course, there's a very high correlation between Bitcoin and all of the altcoins there. So really, it is very dependent, Jeff, on the fate and the direction of Bitcoin.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think the main advice for investors that I would give is, look, this is going to be frenzied. It's going to be volatile. Even a stock like Tesla, I mean, there's no way for me to prove it, but just given the comments they've made around Bitcoin, that stock was up, 7 or 8% today. But I do think, look, going forward, this is something that's going to be around for a long time. I think the more intertwined that Bitcoin gets with corporate balance sheets, I know Grayscale announced a partnership with Time, and Time's going to keep the Bitcoin payment on their balance sheet. So the more and more that happens, the more unlikely it is that this is going to get regulated away, and companies like Coinbase are going to be needed. So if you're getting involved, just know what you're getting involved with.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.